Meeting of the Torrington City Council to order. Good evening and welcome. We have here also with us Ryan Caith from KERM KGOS Radio. This is being broadcast live on the local radio stations and also on YouTube. We also have Miss Jess Oakes here from the Torrington Telegram. This is Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, the 9th council meeting of the year, first meeting in May. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask Councilman Shane Victron to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pardon me. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's informational items. With the nice spring weather, I see many residents out mowing their lawns, watering, and engaging in general spring cleanup. I have been announcing this regularly, but I will announce it once again. The City of Torrington has released this year's spring cleanup dates. This year's spring cleanup dates are Saturday, May 4th, last Saturday, through Saturday, May 11th, the coming Saturday. City customers can utilize the baler facility for dumping of tree limbs, grass, etc. If you need information, you may call the baler at 307-532-4689. Again, that number for the baler, 307-532-4689. The baler will be open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on those two Saturdays, the upcoming Saturday, during the scheduled cleanup. Customers must be able to validate their city accounts with a city bill reflecting a sanitation charge and a valid ID to utilize the dump for free. You are always welcome to dump otherwise for a fee. Only 5 tires without rims per household will be accepted. However, heavy truck tires, commercial tires, and equipment tires are not allowed. No hazardous chemicals or paints will be accepted, and appliances containing Freon, such as freezers and refrigerators, must be tagged as Freon free by a licensed agent. Again, for more information, you may visit www.torringtonwi.gov/216 streets-sanitation, or you can find information on the Torrington Police Department Facebook. The city sewer lining project that started on April 3rd was finished at the end of April. This year's sewer lining project was quite successful, and I want to thank all the residents who were affected during the project for their patience and cooperation. You played a great part in the sewer lining project's success, so thank you much for that. May is a big month for proclamations. On our council agenda this evening are 4 proclamations presented for council's approval and my signature as mayor. One that is not on the agenda, but is nonetheless important and relevant, is May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental illness, ranging from mild to severe, is pervasive in America and right here in Torrington and Goshen County. Unless you or a family member suffers from a mental illness, or you work in the court system, the school system, the medical system, or law enforcement, you may not be as aware of the pervasiveness of mental illness and how it impacts our community in so many ways. I'd ask everyone in our community to affirm a commitment to building our understanding of mental illness, increasing access for treatment, and ensuring those who are struggling to know that they are not alone. I'd ask you to talk to your governor and the state legislators to increase funding for mental health services. There is frankly not enough governmental support for the levels of mental health or mental illness that we are experiencing. Pray for those who struggle with mental health issues and for their families and friends who struggle with them. Pray for their counselors and medical providers that they would have strength, courage, stamina, and wisdom to deal effectively with all that they face. Please do your part to destigmatize mental illness. It is very real and has very great impact on all of us. Please enjoy our golf course, parks, sports fields, and walking path. With the nicer weather, please keep extra watch out for bicycles, scooters, motorcycles, and pedestrians. Please slow down, and please refrain from using your cell phones while driving. Thank you. First item on the agenda, or next item on the agenda, is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from the April 16th, 24 council meeting as published.
Mr. Mayor, I have a procedural
Yes, sir.
question. I see a typo in the minutes, and I can point that out, but I wondered, do I need to pull that out of the consent agenda to do that, or could I just move to approve with that
Subject to
amendment?
amendment, yes, with that amendment.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve correcting, with the amendment of correcting those two typographical errors, page 1, about 2/3 of the way down, reference to the ordinances, the word municipal is misspelled the same way both times. Just a typo, so.
Extra C.
Yeah, I would move to approve with that amendment.
All right. I have a motion from Councilman,
Just trying to follow along.
Okay.
Okay.
all right.
Paragraph from the bottom.
I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to approve the consent agenda as presented with the amendment of the two typos on page 1 of the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda as amended to correct the two typos on the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that motion is passed, and we will amend those minutes. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda itself.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion from Councilman Kelly to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Victorin. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approval of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the agenda itself is approved. Next item on the agenda is what we call the public forum, and I don't see any sign-up sheets in front of Councilman Victorin in that black box, but I always want to let everybody know what this part of the agenda is about. This is for non-agenda items. There is a time limit of 2 minutes, and the speaker must sign up before the meeting. This is a time for council to listen. No action will be taken. So in the future, if anybody wants to take advantage of that, it's taken advantage of by filling out a form and placing it in that black box in front of Councilman Victorin. All right, we will move on to the action items. In action item number 1 is appointments, official voting delegate, and alternate for the 2024 Wyoming Association of Municipalities, WAM, Summer Convention Business Meeting to be held on June 6, 2024 in Pinedale, Wyoming. And I would just let y'all know, that you probably do know, let the public know, that meeting will take place in Pinedale on the 5th, 6th, and 7th of June, but the business meeting will be held on the 6th. And as presented in the agenda, I would be looking for a motion to approve myself, the mayor as the official voting delegate, and Deputy Clerk Sylvia Anaya as the alternate voting delegate.
Both in one motion.
I think that's fine, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve.
I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to approve A and B, the mayor as the official voting delegate, and B, the deputy clerk, Sylvia Anaya, as alternate voting delegate. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
Mr. Mayor, I am just curious what type of business is voted on at this meeting? Is there a type of business where this council or this city has any say in what is, or how a vote would take place?
Well, I'll answer that question by 1 year's experience at the last summer convention. What I recall is during the business meeting, groups will meet with the board and want to pass resolutions to present to the legislature and such. Like I remember last year, there was a group that was trying to present a resolution in favor of legalization of marijuana. And that was taken up by a vote, and it was defeated by a vote. So there was no resolution from WHAM to legalize marijuana last summer.
Typically, that's, if I may, that's what happens, is it's to help set the legislative agenda, WHAM's position on various issues that are potentially going to the legislature, or a recommendation to the legislature to take up certain items.
I think,
The-
don't they also in the business meeting discuss the fees and stuff belonging to WHAM?
Yes, it is a business meeting too, so there are.
Does WHAM publish its whatever is going to be on their business agenda for communities to have a position on ahead of time?
I will ask those with more experience, and I'm seeing a nod of affirmation from Clerk
I
Treasurer's
believe
Director.
Erla sent out the drafts to be considered. And I'm not sure after those drafts go out if the final ones go out or not, but we can definitely get them.
So those will be, you can review those prior to our heading over there.
Okay, very good.
Don't I also recall that there can be motions from the floor during the business meeting too, which are not previously been presented?
I see a nod of affirmation.
That is correct.
That is correct.
And I think, didn't you earlier this year ask for comments from the council on anything we might want to put on the agenda?
Yes, I did send out the emails for resolutions. If we had any resolutions we wanted to present to the WHAM, for WHAM convention.
And just for clarification, for the folks who don't know, WHAM is the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, and they are the lobbyists for towns and cities in Torrington when the legislature's in session. And whether you like politics or not, that's how the system works. There are lobbyists in Cheyenne that lobby various legislators to take your position on bills that are
And,
presented to the legislature.
you know, every community's different, and we don't always agree on what the legislation should be. The small towns against the large towns, the medium-sized towns, I mean, we all have different needs, wants, but
Yes, and the reality is that, Gillette, I think, is the only city or municipality that does not belong to WHAM.
no, I think it's Green River.
Green River, okay. Yeah, but I knew there was
It
only
was a
one.
G, yeah, Green River.
But by extension, it's not, our vote is only one vote among many.
Mm-hmm, certainly, yep.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the voting delegate and the alternate voting delegate. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. Item number 1, all those in favor of approving yours truly, the mayor, as the official voting delegate and the alternate voting delegate as Deputy Clerk Anaya for the WHAM convention in June in Pinedale, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, those, the delegate and that alternate delegate, and that item number 1 is approved. Next item on the agenda, we have a series of proclamations. The first one is a proclamation proclaiming May 5 through 11, 2024 as Drinking Water Week. And what I'd like to do is I want to read the proclamation. It's short. And then I will invite Tom Troxel, our Water Department Supervisor, to come up and answer any questions or let us know what he wants us to know. So, I am reading the Drinking Water Week resolution. Drinking Water Week, May 5 to 11, 2024. Whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, whereas drinking water serves a vital role in daily life, serving an essential purpose to health, hydration, and hygiene needs for the quality of life of our citizens for the quality of life our citizens enjoy, and whereas tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy, whereas the hard work performed by the entire water sector, designing capital projects, operators ensuring the safety and quality of drinking water, or a member of a pipe crew maintaining the infrastructure communities rely on to transport high-quality drinking water from its source to consumers' taps, and whereas coronavirus pandemic has shown a light on the importance of drinking water for health, hydration, and hygiene needs, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which our current and future generations depend, and whereas the citizens of our city are called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved with their water by familiarizing themselves with it. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Torrington, Wyoming, I do hereby proclaim May 5 through 11, 2024 as Drinking Water Week. Signed Herb Doby, Mayor, attested Lynette Strecker, Clerk Treasurer. So that is the proclamation, gentlemen, and I'd invite Tom Troxel up to address any questions council may have about this proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Gentlemen,
Thank you, Tom.
any questions you might have?
About how many thousands of gallons of water do you process a day?
Approximately 1 million gallons is our
Day?
average daily demand. It goes up during the summertime, but our normal average daily demand's right at 1 million gallons.
Didn't think it was that much.
And ironically, Mr. Troxel, I was visiting with you this afternoon, got home, my phone rang, and it was a citizen asking about our drinking water in Torrington, Wyoming. The reverse osmosis, were we taking out too many chemicals that the body needed? Was it safe to drink? So could you address that and assure them that we have good quality drinking water here, please?
Yes. Couple things. Any public water system is regulated by, essentially, the ultimatum is EPA. In Wyoming, EPA has primacy, so they regulate all water systems. If you have, I might get the numbers switched around, but if you have 15 taps and 25 people, you're over that, you're considered a public water system and you're regulated by EPA. City of Torrington, we get a calendar every year, but every February we get a calendar with what we're supposed to sample from EPA. So we sample every month, twice a month for back teas, and then as dictated by their sample schedule, we'll sample for nitrates. Let's say for Torrington, for example, we have one well that is over halfway on the MCL for nitrates, so the MCL for nitrates is 10. We're at 5.5. They require us now to do quarterly sampling for nitrates, just to watch the progression of that well. And then we have other samples we got to take throughout the year. Of course, the big one you hear in the news now is lead and copper. I want to say one thing about that is the good thing about Torrington, Wyoming, is we have no lead lines. So we're doing some work for the EPA right now, and Chris Powell, the foreman, came down here and dug through the archives, I think with the help of Sylvia, and they found a ordinance that said it was like against the law to put in any lead lines in the city of Torrington back in the 1930s. That in itself is going to be a huge help with this new lead and copper rule that's coming out. Our water is treated by reverse osmosis, so I want to say to the public that reverse osmosis is probably the best treatment that the city could have went with 20 years ago, because reverse osmosis takes out the majority of the contaminants that are regulated in drinking water. From nitrates to this new thing you're hearing about is PFAS. So it was a good investment for the city of Torrington with the reverse osmosis units that we purchased. Now it's going on 24 years, 25 years. We've had those in operation. Truly a good investment. Each year, the EPA regulations seem to get harsher. So hopefully we'll be able to keep up with those regulations for a few more years to come before we have to do a different type of treatment.
Thank you.
All right, what I'm looking for, gentlemen, is a motion to approve my signing of the proclamation set forth in item 2.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the proclamation and authorize your signature.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin to approve the proclamation and authorize my signing it. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a second from Councilman Deal. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the proclamation set forth in item 2 and authorizing me to sign it as mayor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that proclamation is approved and I am authorized to sign it. Thank you, Councilman Troxel. Or excuse me, Water Department Head Troxel.
Mayor and council, I just want to say thank you for your continued support. If you didn't see my guys working up on West C and Linda Vista today, we've been up there for the last couple of weeks. We replaced a 4-inch water line. I was going to bring that in tonight, but I'm saving that for the budget work session. Also, they replaced a hydrant up there today, and I think that hydrant was like a 1952.
All right.
So thanks for your continued support.
Thank you, and you might
Appreciate
as
it.
well stand up there.
Go ahead. Mr. Mayor, Tom, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm sure you are open to anybody coming to see our state-of-the-art treatment facility and see how the city's water is treated and distributed.
Absolutely, Councilman. I was going to save that for the next.
Okay.
So
Absolutely.
if you will just stay put, we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda. This is a proclamation proclaiming May 19th through 25th, 2024, as National Public Works Week. And again, I will read that proclamation so everybody, including the folks listening, will know what we're talking about. National Public Works Week Proclamation, May 19 to 25, 2024, advancing quality of life for all. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Torrington. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Torrington, Wyoming, to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association / Canadian Public Works Association, be it now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Herb Doby, Mayor of the City of Torrington, do hereby designate the week, May 19 to 25, 2024, as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality quality of life for all. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and signature as mayor of the city of Torrington, Wyoming, this 7th day of May, 2024. Herb Dobie, Mayor. Attest, Lynette Strecker, Clerk Treasurer. All right. Mr. Troxel.
Mayor, with that being said, and Councilman Victor's comment, I'm kind of speaking for Dana, which is, he's out sick, but Ed too, as part of our job as supervisors for those utilities, I think we'd all three be more than willing to show any of our customers, members of the city of Torrington, our treatment plant, our garbage system, our electrical power grid system, any part of that. I'm sure if they have any questions or would like to see any of that, we would be glad to show them, because, you know, a lot of people take a lot of things for granted nowadays. And they just turn on a tap, there's water, or they take their garbage out to the alley or the front of the street and put it in a can, and it's gone. They don't know what it takes to process that or to get it taken care of. So I think any one of us I'm offering the water department through the end of May. If any of our residents want to see the treatment plant, I'd be glad to show them that.
All right, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just to support that, one of the things that happens when we first come on the council is we're encouraged to go out and visit the various facilities in the city. And so we see the water and the sewer and the street and electrical. And I think, I mean, it was an eye-opener for me, and I think I could probably speak for my fellow council members. No matter how long you've lived here, unless you go out and see those things, you just don't appreciate what's happening behind the scenes. So very much in support and encourage people to take advantage of the chance to go see that. I mean, the water plant, as an example, is very impressive. You have no idea what it takes to get good water to come out of your faucet when you turn it on.
It costs a lot of money to run it too.
Yeah, but I mean, but you could make the same thing, this, like you said, sanitation, electrical, I mean, and street, I mean, just all that stuff that happens behind the scenes that I
Yes,
think
sir.
a lot of times people aren't aware of. So,
And it takes a huge team to do all this, and they're sitting behind me, and so it takes all of us.
yes.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, I know it's a thankless job sometimes to get those phone calls about a water leak at 4 o'clock in the morning or that sort of thing. Or I recall one time when I woke up Dana about 6 o'clock in the morning because a squirrel had decided to electrocute himself on a transformer in the neighborhood. And
Yeah.
he was, I apologized, and he said, "No, that's my job. Thank you for calling. We'll get right on it." So
Yes, sir.
we appreciate the public works folks.
And what this whole system does is it allows us to live a civilized life. We don't realize how blessed we are in America and here in Torrington compared to most of the rest of the world.
Yes, and point taken, that was part of my notes that I didn't talk about. So, you know, very much so. We take a lot for granted. Shut your water off for a day. Try not brushing your teeth first thing in the morning. Not fun.
Can't make your coffee.
Or can make your coffee, yeah.
Well, know all you guys keep everything running, whether it's 100 degrees out or 20 below zero, and we appreciate it.
You bet.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your support.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion in item number 3 to allow or to approve the proclamation for National Public Works Week and authorize my signature on it.
Mr. Mayor, I would so move.
I have a motion from Councilman Patterson in item number 3 to approve the proclamation for National Public Works Week as presented in item 3. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the proclamation and authorizing my signature on it, set forth in item 3, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that proclamation is approved, and I will indeed sign it. Thank you, Mr. Troxel.
Thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item number 4, another proclamation. This is a proclamation proclaiming May 19 to 25, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week. And I will introduce this. I know head of our EMS, Darren Yates, the executive director, is actually out on vacation. He doesn't take enough vacation, and he is out tonight with my approval and encouragement. And I know that those guys are probably on call, or one of them would be here to present this. So I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation, and then council can comment as they deem it appropriate. So the proclamation reads as follows. EMS proclamation. Whereas Emergency Medical Services, EMS, provides a vital public health service, and whereas the members of Emergency Medical Services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency medical care is dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas EMS has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the members of the Emergency Medical Services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing medical education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas Wyoming citizens and visitors benefit daily from the knowledge and skills of these highly trained individuals, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of Emergency Medical Services, EMS, providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, I, Herb Doby, Mayor of the City of Torrington, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19 to 25, 2024 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Signed, Herb Doby, Mayor. Attest, Lynette Strecker, Clerk Treasurer. All right. Well, here, let's try this way. I would entertain a motion to approve the proclamation and a second, and if we have that, then we can have a discussion. So,
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the proclamation of Emergency Medical Services Week.
I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the proclamation of Emergency Medical Services Week. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Victorin. All right, discussion time, gentlemen. Anybody have anything to say?
I do.
Go ahead, Councilman.
I frequently do. I have an opinion on nearly everything and freely expressed, I think. Emergency medical services is one of those things that is not designated, as I understand, as an essential service in the state of Wyoming. And so there's no guarantee of coverage throughout the state, and there are gaps. And for example, my former home in Worland, I lived there for 10 years, the ambulance service there is now based out of Cody. There is an ambulance in Worland, but they no longer have a county ambulance service because of funding issues. We encounter that here too. This proclamation, what it does, it builds a very strong case and summarizes why it is crucial that we have statewide coverage of emergency medical services. Right now, the city of Torrington, to their credit, has been covering a huge area outside the city limits of Torrington. Over half, or about half, of the calls, as I understand, outside, or for Torrington, and it's not Goshen County Ambulance, it's Torrington Ambulance Service, funded by Torrington. About half those calls are outside the city limits. Now, that's a concern fiscally, but it really just points out a problem, is that it's one of those things that is crucial for us as a state and our welfare, that we have that coverage. So there's some things that need to be done at the state level, and I'll stop there, I guess, but I want to encourage that and make people aware of that. There's a huge gap in emergency services, and it comes down to funding, bottom line, as most things do. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. Any further comment, questions? I just want to say that I'm very impressed with the EMS service here in Torrington. I kind of come to know those guys. They invited me to their Christmas party. They hadn't had one for several years. they're quite an entertaining group. They are well-trained and they are dedicated. It takes a special person to live that lifestyle with the crazy hours, and just the adrenaline pumping and all of the stuff that goes along with it. And they are highly trained, and that is very often the difference between life and death, is how quick they can get there and how well they do once they're there, and how quick they can get you to more specialized services. So I want to thank them all for doing that, and I wanted to say that.
Mr. Mayor, I would also like to make a few comments and show my appreciation for the emergency medical services department that we have. A lot of people don't know this, but every month we as the council get a report from our director, and I find it very interesting. I kind of am a data person, so I'm interested in facts and figures. And I wanted to share with the public, just from the past month for April, how fast our emergency medical service team responds to scenes, responds to homes, wherever they're needed. And in the month of April, the average time from notification to arrival on the scene is just a little over 4 minutes. And I think our community needs to be very appreciative of how quickly and how fast not only our dispatch team dispatches those personnel to scenes, but how quickly those personnel arrive and can start giving aid and care to those in need. And just in the month of April, they responded to about 100 different incidents. And arriving there between 3.5 and 4 minutes is, I think, remarkable for our community. So my hat's off to that department and all that they do to help provide emergency services to our citizens and outside of the city as well.
Thank you. Well said.
I've got
Councilman Kelly.
got a son that's a paramedic in the fire department in Cheyenne, has been for years. And they usually see these people when they're worse. They see the worst things there are. It's kind of like the police department. So you got to have a thumbs up for these guys that are willing to do that year after year and day after day and all hours of the day. So thank you for that.
Yep. Well said again. I believe I have a motion and a second, don't I? All right. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. Item number 4. All those in favor of approving the proclamation of Emergency Medical Services Week and authorizing my signature as mayor upon it, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that proclamation is approved, and I will indeed sign it. Next item on the agenda is item number 5. This is the last proclamation this evening. This is a proclamation proclaiming May 2024 as Tennis Month. And I know Curtis Berkeley is here, and it looks like his daughter. No. I shouldn't guess.
She's another assistant coach for the high school team here.
Okay, I shouldn't guess. If you would come forward, and she is welcome too, and just tell us just a little bit about this. And while you're coming forward, I will go ahead and read the proclamation. All right. Proclamation. Whereas on May 21, 1881, the USTA, originally known as the United States National Lawn Tennis Association, was founded in New York City, New York, to create rules and standards for the emerging game of lawn tennis. And whereas the USTA is the nonprofit national governing body for tennis in the United States and leads the promotion and growth of the sport at every level of play, from beginners to professionals at the U.S. Open. And whereas the USTA is the largest tennis organization in the world with over 550,000 members from every corner of the country, and whereas the USTA proudly partners with local tennis programs to showcase the important health, social, and educational benefits of tennis, and make the sport available to everyone regardless of age, environment, condition, or ability through its USTA adaptive grants. And whereas the latest research by the Physical Activity Council shows that more than 23.8 million Americans played tennis in 2023, an unprecedented 25% increase in participation over 2020, and the highest number of players since the PAC study began in 2007. And whereas by increasing the accessibility of tennis for citizens of Torrington of all ages and ability, the USTA has contributed to making our community happier and healthier. And whereas USTA has declared the month of May as National Tennis Month to encourage players, organizations, facilities, retailers, tennis manufacturers, and more to promote local programs and activities at parks and facilities to showcase tennis and spread the word about the sport and its benefits, and to help players and non-players alike find courts and play opportunities in their communities. Now, therefore, I, Herb Doby, Mayor of Torrington, Wyoming, proclaim May 2024 as National Tennis Month, and hereby urge the citizens of Torrington to become aware of and support National Tennis Month. Herb Doby, Mayor. Attest, Lynette Strecker, Clerk Treasurer. And I just ask you for a couple of comments, Mr. Berkeley.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the consideration. So with this proclamation, the United States Tennis Association actually gives a little bit of a grant to programs to help support tennis, whether it's through tennis balls or rackets or anything to help support people who want to play tennis. Obviously, Andrea Matlock and I are both tennis coaches, played here at Torrington High School, as well as now able to coach and prep other kids to enjoy the sport. And so it's been fun. I had told Mr. Doby here about last year, July of 2023, we lost a really good member of the tennis community. Her name was Mary Perkins. And this year, hopefully here in May, we're going to be able to dedicate the courts, the 5 courts that we have over by the middle school, and to dedicate them to Mary Perkins courts. And that's an incredible thing. Actually, the USTA did a memorandum for Mary Perkins at 63 years of age who passed, and just talked about her leadership within the tennis community, within the state, as well as here in Torrington. And it's a fantastic tribute to her life and being a supporter and a mentor, not only in the classroom as a teacher, but also as a coach, as a friend. And so anyway, I want to just thank you guys.
Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate it. All right, gentlemen, any questions for Mr. Berkeley? Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the proclamation proclaiming May 2024 as Tennis Month in Torrington, Wyoming, and to authorize me to sign the proclamation.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilman Kelly to approve the proclamation of May 2024 as Tennis Month and authorize me to sign it. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Councilman Patterson. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor on item number 5 of proclaiming May 2024 as Tennis Month in Torrington, Wyoming, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, that's approved, and I will sign it. Thank you, sir. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 6, ordinance on first reading relating to the power purchase agreement with Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska, MEAN. Dana Utes is out tonight, but Mr. Eddington is here, and the first thing I would do is ask Mr. Eddington to please read by title this ordinance.
It's an ordinance amending and reenacting Section 13.20.016 of the Torrington Municipal Code, 2024 revisions relating to authorizing and directing execution of the amended and restated Total Power Requirements Power Purchase Agreement by the City of Torrington, Wyoming with the Municipal Energy Agency of Nebraska.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eddington. And I guess I'll start this conversation. We have had a contract to purchase electricity from Mean for years and years. Is that right?
It's 2004,
I think 4.
I believe.
Okay, so 20 years.
3 or 4, yeah.
And I think that there was a meeting, I know Dana Utes, our electrical department, attended that, and you did. Mean changed the contract, the form of the contract that had been in place for about 40 years.
Yes.
And I know that we've had meetings and we've discussed the changes with you as city attorney. And if the changes do anything, they benefit the city of Torrington, because my understanding is it allows us to get out of the contract if we think that is appropriate after 25 years, but before we couldn't get out of the contract at all.
Correct.
It was perpetual. So that was to some advantage. But, you know, I've talked to staff about this, and the city of Torrington is served well by purchasing our electricity from Mean. So, but we have to have this ordinance which authorizes me as mayor to sign the contract, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So that's basically what it is. And Mrs. Strecker, I'd call on you if there's anything else you think we ought to know.
I don't think so.
Okay. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for the city attorney or for the clerk treasurer on this? Or comments?
Just an observation. So when we get this thing and I read through it, and I didn't read it, I read through it, and it's obviously very complex and very technical, and I just want to express my appreciation for the experts in the room and in the city that go through this and understand it, and I agree, it seems to have served us well, so.
All right. Well, if there aren't further questions for Mr. Eddington or Mrs. Strecker, I would entertain a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading that's set forth in item 6.
Mr. Mayor, I would make the motion to approve your signature on the power purchase agreement with Mean.
Okay. And the ordinance on first reading?
Yes.
Okay.
The ordinance.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Deal to approve the ordinance on first reading and my signature on the agreement with Mean. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion, gentlemen? I will call for a vote on that. All those in favor of approval of this ordinance set forth in item 6 on first reading and approval of my signature on the contract with Mean signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that ordinance is passed on first reading, and my authorization to sign the contract when appropriate. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, ordinance on second reading. And I would again ask Mr. Eddington if you would please read that ordinance by title.
It's an ordinance amending and reenacting Section 2.04.010 of the Torrington Municipal Code, 2024 revisions relating to regular meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington. And we had a fairly substantial discussion, I thought, on when we considered this ordinance on first reading. But just to remind everybody, the only change to the ordinance would be to change the meeting time of city council meetings from 7 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. So at this point, I would ask, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Eddington on this?
Mr. Mayor, I have a general question, and this may also just go to the city business offices too. Has there been any feedback? Have you heard anything from anyone concerned or?
We recall no one coming in with any comments,
the-
either way.
And that kind of echoes what I've heard when I've talked with people. No one seems to have any real concern, so. I appreciate that's not a scientific sample, but
All right. Well, what I'd like to do is I would entertain a motion to approve this on second reading and a second, and then obviously there'll be time for discussion if I get a motion and a second. So I would entertain a motion on item number 7 on the agenda, ordinance on second reading on the time of meetings. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve this motion, or this ordinance on second reading.
All right. I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to approve this ordinance on second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. All right, gentlemen. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving an item 7, this ordinance on second reading relating to regular meetings of City Council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay.
Nay.
All right, that passed 3-2. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next item on the agenda is item number 8, ordinance on second reading, annexing the wireless addition. And Mr. Eddington, would you please read that ordinance by title?
An ordinance annexing within the corporate limits of the city of Torrington, Wyoming, real property to be known as the wireless addition.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington, and I would call on Mr. Dennis Estes, the Building and Grounds Superintendent.
Mayor, since this started, I've had no public comment, so the staff would recommend approval.
And this is, the property owners want this annexation?
Correct, a petition to annex.
All right. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for either the city attorney or Mr. Estes? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the ordinance on second reading relating to annexing the wireless addition.
All right, thank you, Councilman Victor. And I have a motion to approve the ordinance on second reading relating to the annexing of the wireless addition. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Item number 8, all those in favor of approving this ordinance on second reading, annexing the wireless addition, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that ordinance is approved on second reading. Next item on the agenda is related. It's item number 9, ordinance on second reading, establishing I-1 zoning for lots 1 and 2 of wireless addition. Mr. Eddington, would you please read us the title?
It's an ordinance amending and reenacting section 18.16.020 of the Torrington Municipal Code, 2024 revisions relating to the city of Torrington, Wyoming, amending the zoning district map by establishing I-1 zoning for attractive land.
Thank you, Mr. Eddington, and I would call on Mr. Estes.
Same comment as before, just housekeeping, basically, zoning it. If we annex it totally, it'll be zoned.
And have you had any comments for or against at all?
No public comment, Mayor.
And again, this is approved by the property owners.
Correct.
Mr. Estes, could you give us a little synopsis of what I-1 consists of?
It's a real light industrial district. You know, you can't have like a cement plant. It's really just light, like a, I can't even think of, there's a whole list of items in the ordinance that I could get for you. But it's the lightest industrial district, so.
Right now, there are 2 cell phone towers on that property. Right?
Correct. They have no intentions of doing anything else, to my knowledge.
And just briefly explain to us the location of this property.
This is directly west of EWC College on College Avenue and directly south of the hospital, right in that corner.
And it's,
So if you go all the way to the end of College Drive, it's right there.
I think, 500 by 500.
Yes, sir, it's 500 by 500, 2 parcels, 250 apiece.
All right, gentlemen, any further questions for Mr. Estes?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance establishing I-1 zoning.
I have a motion from Councilman Deal on item number 9 to approve the ordinance on second reading, establish I-1 zoning as set forth in the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the ordinance on second reading, establishing zoning for the wireless edition as set forth in item 9, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that ordinance on second reading and item 9 is approved. Next item on the agenda is memorandum of understanding between the State of Wyoming, Department of Corrections, and Torrington Police Department. And staff reference is Matt Johnson, Chief of Police, and I would call on Chief of Police Matt Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you is an MOU between, or proposed MOU between WMCI and Torrington Police Department. This was brought to us from WMCI. The warden and Major Cholsky provided this to us. It's part of an annual checklist that they do to make sure that they have everything in order should we have a critical event inside the city of Torrington that would require both of us to work together. It's good practice. It's good for organizations that might have to deal with tough times together, to lay some things out ahead of time and have a little bit of a plan about the best way to do that. We were largely happy with the initial draft that they presented. There was just a couple of minor changes that we recommended and they were in agreement with. Those changes are highlighted for you. Under subsection 5, paragraph A, we just did a little bit of clarification there to make sure that we recognize that we're police officers, not correctional officers, so we need to operate under our training, our certification, and our policies, rather than operating under their supervision, certification, training policies, et cetera. And then the other change we added in was the signature of the mayor in our organization. We asked the mayor to be part of a signatory authority on an MOU. Other than that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Gentlemen, any questions for the chief?
As I read the agreement, Chief Johnson, it appears that Torrington PD personnel would never be required under this memorandum to do anything within the prison confines. You would be establishing a perimeter, would be the...
I mean, that would be our primary role, yes. There are times when we do things in the prison confines from the standpoint of an investigation or helping out on some issue of that type, but we would not be performing duties as correctional officers inside. We would be primarily assigned to the outside.
And Chief, this is generally related to an emergency situation out there.
It is, yes. We work with WMCI all the time from the standpoint of conducting investigations and collaborating together on those issues.
And I just want to highlight the changes you have in yellow on paragraph 5A. You will maintain, as Chief of Police, supervision over your officers out there.
That is correct.
You're willing
yes.
to work under them, but you maintain control over your folks out there.
And that's important not because we're trying in any way to be unhelpful, but it's important because we do have different training, different certification, different policies, and different parameters that we can operate under. So it's important for us to just make sure that we keep that in alignment and stay within our lane in terms of helping out.
If I could add
Go ahead,
a comment too, I think we may be unique here in Torrington in that the prison is located inside the corporate city limits of Torrington. And so that's not true in Rollins, that's not true, I don't think, in Newcastle, Alaska, or Riverton, but it is true here. So it does create a unique working arrangement and a cooperative arrangement. I think that's worked well, so.
Yes.
That's an excellent point, because a lot of folks probably don't realize that the WMCI is indeed within Torrington City corporate limits.
And if I could point out, I feel like an English professor tonight, but I found a typo in 5B. The very last word is credentials.
It's misspelled.
It's misspelled.
You are correct.
Okay, and I'll stop there.
I'll fix it.
I think that everybody appreciates those types of comments. They truly do. So it's not petty. I think it's helpful.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor, Chief.
Sir.
I assume by the MOU that the staff at WMCI, whoever that may be, the warden or his designee, will have to declare an emergency in order for you to, in order for this to be enacted. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. I mean, there doesn't have to be a formal declaration of emergency.
I guess I don't necessarily mean a declaration, but he would have to acknowledge there is an emergency that you would have to respond to.
Yes. I think to me, the easiest way to say that is he would need to reach out and say that they need help.
Sure.
And we've done some scenarios with them, like an escape scenario, where they would contact us and say, hey, we've got a suspected escape and we need your help. So I guess from that standpoint, that would be kind of an emergency situation. Anytime you're looking at a potential unsafe or escape sort of a scenario out there, you could safely call it an emergency. But we don't have a formal, like, code word emergency, I guess, if you will, to
Sure.
to go out and help. It would just be them calling up and saying, hey, we've got a situation and we need your assistance. And then we would gladly support in any way that we could.
Very good.
And I just, you mentioned it, Chief. I mean, obviously, if there's a crime committed out there, then I know that you will send your officers out there to conduct an investigation, because there can be inmate-on-inmate crime that needs to be investigated, because
Certainly.
they can certainly be prosecuted, even though they're already an inmate.
That is correct.
So that happens. When I looked at this and discussed it with you, I kind of envision a riot, for instance. Cell Block D is in a riot situation or something, and they need extra help out there to quell and contain a riot. Or that's kind of how I looked at this. Then they could call on PD to help them in that capacity or in that context.
That is largely the type of scenario that could occur. Escapes are another big one. Certainly, there's other unforeseen circumstances. I'd hate to pretend that I could predict every type of situation that could pop up in relation to a prison. But yeah, those types of scenarios are largely what we'd be looking at. The bulk of our authority, if you will, and certification is useful outside of the prison, and that would be our primary assignment. We would not take on correctional officer roles inside the prison, but feasibly, I mean, if there were a scenario where a law enforcement authority were necessary inside of the prison, we could function inside of that capacity at the request of the warden, as we do with investigations.
All right, gentlemen, any further questions for the chief or Mr. Eddington, or?
If there's none, Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the State of Wyoming Department of Corrections and the Torrington Police Department.
I have a motion from Councilman Victorin, and item number 10, to approve the memorandum of understanding between the State of Wyoming Department of Corrections and the Torrington Police Department. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the memorandum of understanding between the State of Wyoming Department of Corrections and Torrington Police Department as set forth in item 10, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, is approved, and I will sign it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item number 11. waiving of nepotism policy regarding seasonal swimming pool employees. And gentlemen, I believe in your packet, you have the official City of Torrington nepotism policy, and I would call on Mrs. Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Every year, the pool, we come to you to waive this policy. The pool does have an undue hardship in that we have trouble finding employees of the teenage age that are not either brothers and sisters or relatives of some sort. In this instance, the manager, the new manager, Jennifer Brummel, will be supervising kind of her daughter. There is an assistant manager who can also step in to make those calls and to help with those situations. But we would require, in order to employ the daughter, we need the nepotism policy waived.
And the daughter is employed as a lifeguard, right?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Patterson.
I know historically, I mean, we've done this, I think, every year that I've been here, and they've managed it well in that if there are two family members working together, to move them around as much as they can with the schedules and things,
They'll try to do that.
to avoid
Yeah.
direct supervision and those kind of things. So I think they manage that, historically have managed that quite well, so.
And she brought it to the attention before she accepted the position as manager that, that would be an issue for this year only. Her daughter will be moving on from college, and this will be the last year for her daughter to be employed there at the pool.
And as far as we're aware, that is the only nepotism issue for the pool this summer.
Yeah,
Is
I'm-
mother and daughter. There are no sibling issues. There have been in the past, siblings working together.
None that we know of, anyway.
All right, any further questions for Mrs. Strecker? All right, item number 11, I would entertain a motion to waive the nepotism policy as we discussed here for seasonal swimming pool employees. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would make the motion to approve the waiving of the nepotism policy for swimming pool employees.
Thank you, Councilman Deal. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Councilman Patterson. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I wonder if the bringer of the motion would clarify that waiving would be just for the year of this year.
Yes, that would be an acceptable amendment to that motion, yes.
It says on page 2, the last revised 12/4 of 2019. Didn't we do this way back then, make it a permanent thing?
The nepotism policy has been in place, yes, that long. But we are waiving it for the pool for this season only. That's what the request is.
Okay.
All right. I believe I have an amended motion to waive the nepotism policy regarding pool seasonal employees for this year, for 2024, and a second. Do I have a second?
I would second.
Okay, I have a second from Councilman Victorin. Any further discussion?
We already had a second.
Was there a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't sure.
Okay, that's a third.
Patterson?
Okay, that's right. Thank you, gentlemen. We all get lost, including myself at times. So we do have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of waiving of nepotism policy for seasonal swimming pool employees this year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the nepotism policy for the seasonal swimming pool employees this year is waived, is approved. The waiver is approved. Is that good enough, Ms. Anaya? Okay. All right, item number 12. Another issue of nepotism, waiving, requesting council to approve the waiving of the nepotism policy as it relates to Torrington Volunteer Fire Department Secretary position. And first, I would call on Mrs. Strecker.
Pretty much the same request here. I believe there's some minutes in the meeting. No one was interested in doing the reports, and I believe his wife stepped up to do it. And we just need you to waive it so that we can, accept her as an employee in the fire department under Luis.
And it's that simple is my understanding, too. My understanding is Lauren Correa, wife of Luis Correa, the fire chief, has agreed to do this position. She's been trained for the position, has been doing the position because no one was aware that there was an issue. And when it was discovered that there was an issue, then it was brought forward, and here we are. So, and if council has any questions for Fire Chief Luis Correa or for Lauren Correa, his wife, I would invite them forward. Do you want to come forward? Thank you, folks. And I'll say this, for the record, we have Fire Chief Luis Correa and his wife, Lauren Correa.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I guess I'd just start with, we haven't had any interest in it. Our previous person had been the secretary for about 20 years, I believe. She also served under her husband, Rick Donbraska. Beth Donbraska did. But yeah, I believe we've done what was asked of us to get to this point. We're just asking that you allow her to do that. The state of Wyoming just recently switched the reporting systems, and understandably, after 20 years, Beth on Nebraska did not want to learn a new system, so it's never been an official capacity, but I rely on my wife, and she's volunteered or voluntold for many things within the department, so this is just making it official, I guess.
It's truly a family thing, the Torrington Volunteer Fire Department.
It is. Yep, we rely on our spouses very much so.
And Chief, I know from reading what's in all of us have, Mrs. Correa has taken the 2-hour training course, and she's nodding affirmatively, and she's been doing the job.
Right.
And it's basically doing incident reports. When you guys have an incident, then it has to be passed on to the state fire marshal, right?
Correct. The department actually has another secretary for the membership, so I don't want that to be confused with that. This would be strictly incident reporting, nothing else.
It's that specific of a position.
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for the chief or Lauren Correa?
Is she going to be compensated for this?
Yes, the city does compensate for it.
Okay.
That was my question as well. I wasn't quite sure if this was a compensated position that actually determined employment, but you answered it.
Yeah, from what I understand, Beth had been paid when she first started 20 years ago. She was paid $75 a month, and throughout the 20 years, it was bumped up to $100 per month is what she gets paid for. I guess she wrote down a couple of things. It's 2 hours that she did in training. A couple hours for actually building the database that we'll have. You have to enter in your apparatus, your department members, badge numbers, and then it's about 20 to 30 minutes per incident, entering that in depending on the severity of the call. Of course, the structure fire is going to be a lot more, but we have to report everything down to we got canceled on our way and didn't make it out the door, so it varies. So
Listen, Mr. Mayor, if you need a job recommendation, I know Mrs. Correa's freshman English teacher, and he would give her a solid recommendation on her writing ability.
Okay. That's good to hear. All right. Gentlemen, do you have any further questions for Chief Correa or his wife, Mrs. Correa? Given that, I would call for a vote on item number 12.
We need a motion, Mr. Mayor, on this one.
I'm sorry, I meant to say I'll call for a motion. Thank you. I would call for a motion on item number 12 to approve the waiving of the nepotism policy as relates to the Torrington Volunteer Fire Department Secretary position. Do I have that motion?
I would move to waive the nepotism policy for the fire department for this position.
I have a motion from Councilman Patterson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Victorin. All right, any further discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor of approving the waiver of the nepotism policy set forth in item 12 relating to the Torrington Volunteer Fire Department Secretary position, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, that waiver of that nepotism policy for item 12 is approved. Thank you, Correas. Next item on the agenda is item number 13, approval of the bills from 4/17/24 to 5/7/24. And I'd call on Mrs. Strecker.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Attached to your agenda were a list of bills, and then also handed out tonight was an additional set of bills. We did have a 3-week break in between approvals, so we do have quite a few bills to approve tonight and a quite large dollar amount. Be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Might refer to Dennis, I don't know, but it's for the cement work at the new facility building. I thought that bid came in lower than that.
What page are you on, Council?
Oh, I'm sorry. First set of bills, page 5, EP Construction.
Thank you.
Councilman Victor, and I got 2 bids on that, 2 separate contractors. One was, don't quote me, 12,000, 13,000. This one was 5,000, so I took a low bid. Never had an issue with this contractor ever and done a lot of work with him. Got the bill, and they left off the 1 on the quote and put the 1 on the bill. So it was a pretty big shock to me because that's not what I was planning on, but he's a good contractor. He does good work. I mean, he's got that money in it, so it was an oversight on his part. He did admit to it, so.
And it was indeed a typo.
It was
I mean,
indeed a
there's
typo.
There's that value of work that was accomplished
Correct.
in services and product.
The other catch to this is the other contractor, that was the first bid we've ever got from him. He just went out on his own from J-Belt. It's the very first bid I've ever got from this one, and he does really good work as well, but, you know, I just hadn't had anything in the past to compare his with, so I thought maybe he was a little high, but evidently he wasn't, so.
That's my only question, and while I have a minute, Mr. Mayor, I would note that I would like to abstain from the payment to Z&W Mill, and maybe we could have a repeat of how we did that last time.
Is that Z&W bill on the second set?
Yes,
or-
sir.
So, Mr. Mayor, if it's appropriate at this time, I would move to approve that payment to Z&W Mill. Break that out and approve that separately.
All right, with Councilman Victor abstaining from that.
Yes.
So I have a motion from Councilman Patterson to approve the payment of the Z&W bill. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think Councilman Kelly beat you. Second from Councilman Kelly. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, All those in favor of the approval of the bill to Z&W, or payment of the bill from Z&W Mill, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the Z&W bill is approved. And thank you, that's a good way to handle that.
There are no more questions about the bills. I make a motion to approve the rest of the bills as presented.
All right, I have a motion from Councilman Kelly to approve the rest of the bills as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Deal. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none. Item number 13, all those in favor of approval of the bills as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the bills are approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 14, public comment. And I would call Luis Correa, the fire chief, forward.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, since the last time we met, we've run a couple calls. We just the other day had an electrical burning smell investigation that we did, and we ended up not finding anything. On that same day, our command unit made it out to the motor vehicle accident, but it was deemed that the rest of the guys weren't necessary for that one. Before that, we had a concerned citizen. It was a controlled burn that was called in. The neighbor just was concerned that it was a little bit bigger than what she was comfortable by her house, so we went and did the investigation and found that they were doing everything they needed. They had plenty of people around the fire. There was plenty of bare ground that in between that and any vegetation. And unfortunately, we went on a pretty extensive, it turned out to be a barn and shed fire, structure fire, where the Yoder Fire Department and Veteran Fire Department were mutual aided. And it was knocked down fairly quickly. We were able to keep about half the barn up. The shed was unfortunately gone before we even arrived on scene. Then we had a controlled burn that wasn't called in. Again, the neighbor was a little bit uneasy with that one, and when we got there, they, again, other than not calling it in, they had a water source readily available, and there was, I don't know, 7 or 8 people there around the fire watching it. Then we had a gas meter hit up on the hill in the Hot Springs area. I believe a lawnmower hit that while they were doing some lawn maintenance, and we were called out we shut the gas off, and Black Hills took it from there. And then the care center had an alarm go off. I believe it was just about the same as the water flow, and we purged their system for them and got it back to what we always do. And then our last call we went to was a fire near the river bridge that somebody had started, and it kind of got away from them, but was quickly knocked down.
Campfire?
Yeah, I believe it's possibly a homeless person that's kind of taken up residence underneath that, and he starts a fire to keep warm, and this one I think got away from him. Typically it's not too bad. He will go and put it out because we can't be having fires under the river bridge for structural reasons. But yeah, I believe that's what the case was, but of course he's never around when we get there, so.
And I want to reiterate, it is so important if one is going to have a controlled burn to call 532-7001 and let dispatch know that you are indeed having a controlled burn. Then if the neighbors or passersby see it and it's called in, then dispatch has knowledge of it and can take that path of action, right?
Yes, correct. Yep.
When you went out to the one that the neighbor called and it hadn't been called to dispatch, did it let them know best practices?
Yes, yes. I didn't ever hear, but they commented that they were possibly going to burn the next day, so I made sure that they knew that that is indeed the correct process to go.
Okay.
Of course, they were cleaning up their property, and it was out on Road 45B, so it was out in the county.
And we say this a lot at this time. It is so important for people when they're doing controlled burns to call dispatch and let them know that it is indeed a controlled burn. That's so helpful.
It does. It saves a lot of time and effort on the fire department's behalf, and as well as dispatch. That's time taken away from other things that may be pressing at the same time. So.
Right. Okay. All right, gentlemen, any questions for the fire chief?
Speaking of that, in this season, do you get a lot of calls when GID and the other irrigation districts are doing their burns of the ditches?
This year it hasn't been too bad, but yeah, typically we get quite a few that, again, it's a controlled burn that just happens to get away from them and they need a little help knocking it down. But yeah, this year it's been pretty quiet on that front, thankfully. So.
All right, any further questions for the fire chief? Thank you, Luis, I appreciate it.
Thank
We
you.
all do. We are in public comment, and I see Chief Johnson heading up to the podium.
Was that an uh-oh?
I didn't say it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There was a really important event that happened this last Saturday that involves a really humble group of heroes that I think we would be remiss in not recognizing. Saturday was International Firefighter Appreciation Day. Our firefighters get the short end of the stick, quite frankly. Everybody else gets a whole week. Dispatch gets a week, EMS gets a week, police officers get a week, and firefighters somehow got stuck with one day. And it seems unfair that we might miss it. So I just wanted to take a minute to recognize that. We are incredibly fortunate as a community to have the team at Torrington Volunteer Fire Department serving us. As an agency, we are so grateful for their partnership and for their friendship and their help in keeping our community safe. We work with them endlessly in dispatch and are just constantly grateful for the work they do and the way they do it. They are a team of volunteers who freely give of themselves to provide amazing service to our community. They're really, really competent. We get professional level service out of a group of volunteers. They are professional, they are kind, they are incredibly humble, and they serve every single one of us in this community because they care. And I just wanted to take a minute to really appreciate them and to make sure that we didn't let that important day on Saturday slip by without recognizing. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, we are,
Mr. Mayor,
Comment.
I need to make a statement, if I may. I'll be brief.
you may.
Because I know the hour's late. So I'll kind of give you the short version here, and those are famous last words, but I retired from Eastern Wyoming College in 2017, 7 years ago. Since that time, I've been teaching continuously at EWC, 2 or 3 classes every semester, psychology, sociology, and criminal justice. I serve on the Wyoming Peace Officer Standard and Training Commission. I serve on the Domestic Violence Task Force Board here. I'm the vice chair there. And I've served on the city council now for a little over 4 years. In addition to that, during that 7 years, I've also been called back to EWC to serve as the interim president for a few months. And I also was asked by the Goshen County School District to serve as interim superintendent of schools for a few months. So my point is that retirement isn't exactly what he thought it was going to be. It's been a little hectic. As a result of that and a discussion, a long discussion, series of discussions with my wife, I've decided that I will not be running for reelection at the end of my term. Now, that doesn't end until January. So it's not like I'm going away today. You won't get rid of me that fast. I have about 7 months to go, I think. But I wanted to announce it publicly so that if someone, or maybe several someones in the community are interested in serving, the filing period will be opening soon,
15th,
16th
15th.
through the 31st. Is that correct? Correct. Yeah. And so I just wanted to kind of get the word out that that is open then, and I would absolutely encourage someone who might be interested in doing it. I cannot think of a better way to spend your time, a better way to contribute to your community than this city council. It has been a pleasure to work with all of these folks and those who preceded them. And to say nothing of the staff, the crew of the city of Torrington, all the various departments, department heads, so on and so forth. So I am not dying and going away. There's no, bad news. I didn't inherit a bunch of money or, none of those things have happened. It's just, my wife keeps reminding me that nothing is forever and there's some things we might want to do and, well, we can. And so that was what the decision was based on. So I would absolutely encourage someone who is interested. I especially encourage maybe someone who is female or maybe someone who is younger. I think a good mixture of representation is helpful and healthy for the community, but it really doesn't matter. A good committed person would be well rewarded by doing this work. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Patterson. I appreciate that.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may take a few moments,
Yes,
I
you
know
may.
we were all pre-warned of this event, and as the division chair, who was the direct supervisor for Dr. Patterson when he first came back to Torrington, I would like to publicly thank him for his years of service, volunteer work, from the PD, TWC, the school district, the city, all the volunteerism that he does, and does so willingly, and you will be missed.
Well, thank you. My mother often said, and probably still does, the world's a better place if I'm kept busy. But there's probably at some point you just say, okay, you can be too busy, I think, sometimes. So thank you very much.
And I would second that. And I've served with you on this council for, 17 months? And it's been a pleasure serving with you, and I assure you will be missed. So, any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Councilman Patterson. Going once, going twice.
I just have one real
Yes, sir.
piece of edification for the community. We've been visited by a wonderful weather phenomenon this past couple of days, and we're in for it for a little bit more tomorrow, and then I think better weather's on its way the end of the week. But I wanted to share with the community that the National Weather Service recorded within the past 24 hours a peak wind gust at the Torrington Airport of 66 miles an hour. And I thought that was pretty interesting to share. So,
I was going to say, is that all? Well, thank you for that. I grew up here. I know it gets windy in March and into early April, but it just seems like late April and May isn't usually as windy as it has been this year. It has been windy, and we've been blessed that we've had no power outages to speak of, and other things, and yes, that can happen when we have these high winds. So, and that's a good report, Councilman Victor, and it should die down in a couple of days, right? All right. Any further comments, council or public? Hearing and seeing none. We have completed this evening's agenda, and this meeting is adjourned. And thank you for